that they're men is based off of the fact that they're stronger. But most men are going to be stronger than most women, which is the exact same point that you just made at the beginning when you said that you were going to throw men into the ice water with the sharks because they have a better chance of surviving, because they're stronger, because they're men. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Find Your Formula Reacts. Now, today we have another clip from the Whatever podcast from Mr. Andrew Wilson, the great master debater. And it says, Andrew Wilson makes soyboy feminists realize his argument is something. I'm guessing they have a disagreement about feminism. I take it Andrew's take is going to be feminism probably holds men to some type of unrealistic standards that they don't hold women to, yet they claim to be about equality. I've seen a little bit of this clip. It's about 15 minutes long. We're not going to go over all of it. I watched about 2 or 3 minutes and I was like, all right, seems pretty good. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
Said because people should protect those who are weaker than them. Once again, claim that I'm stipulating. If you disagree and don't think those who are stronger should use that to protect those who are less strong, then I guess this doesn't follow. But I think that's a pretty strong...
Before Andrew gives his take, I want to talk about this because we have to talk about the ramifications of protecting, all right? What does it mean to protect something? Protection means that you are putting yourself in between the thing or the people that you're protecting and the danger of the outside world, all right? So obviously you can die trying to protect something. You can lose life and limb, essentially. You're putting your life and limb on the line in exchange for another person's safety. So if his position is, well, men should protect women because men are stronger, I think Andrew's position or counterpoint would be something along the lines of like, well, what are women doing in return? You know, the 2 minutes of this that I watched, it was a clip on TikTok where these two guys were arguing. And I'm kind of using what I saw on the clip to kind of give some extra context here. So let's see if I'm right or let's see if I'm just way off.
Intuition that most people hold.
Let's make sure that you hold this intuition then, okay?
Yeah.
So would you consider like a 13-year-old boy to be a child?
Yes.
Okay. Do you agree with me that 13-year-old boys can be about as strong as an average woman?
Sure. I would depend. I'm not sure.
So should 13-year-old boys give up their seats on the lifeboat for women?
Maybe it's a case by case dependent basis. I think you should try to save women and children because
should the 13-year-old give up their spot in the lifeboat for a 70-year-old woman?
No, because I think there's a I think there's a longer lifespan. Wait, Andrew, this is what you did.
Yeah, here we go.
No, this is what you did. I'm gonna explain what you did. You took one categorization
Well, hold up, but wait a minute. That doesn't that contradicts his whole position, because his position was the stronger should take care of the weak. And if he agrees, I'm trying to get this right in my head because it doesn't make sense. If he agrees that the average 13-year-old that average 13-year-old boy is just as strong as the average adult female, then in his own logic that he stated earlier, the 13-year-old boy would give up his seat for the elderly lady. But here he just said no because the 13-year-old child has a longer lifespan. So we're 56 seconds into this clip and he's already contradicted his own position. I don't know how I don't really understand his thought process, but that was crazy.
I made and general prescription.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're a woman?
No, because I think there's a longer lifespan. Wait, Andrew, this is what you did.
Yeah, here we go.
No, this is what you did. I'm gonna explain what you did. You took one categorization that I made and general prescription.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not consistent,
that
bro.
those who are stronger should generally protect those who are weaker. That's what I said. And you're saying
That's not what you said.
Every single case where there's someone who's stronger, they should protect someone who's weaker overriding
you didn't
consideration.
Say generally.
Did I not say generally?
You actually just said that stronger people should protect weaker people.
Okay, then I meant that in the general sense. I'm sorry for not specifying.
So generally speaking, then, men are going to be disadvantaged in society under your view.
I don't think they're going to be disadvantaged because they have the advantage of more strength. So them using that strength to protect others.
Yeah, but you're prescribing a duty. You haven't actually told me why it is. So, for instance, do you agree that men and women's lives are equally valuable?
Equally valuable? Yeah.
Okay.
Historically, that is not true at all. Historically, that's not even true now. The women don't even have to sign up for the draft. So if our lives are the same, one for one, why is it that one whole side has to sign up for the draft and the other side doesn't? If our life is equal, Now, I don't think that male life and female life is equal. I don't, because without women, the species comes to a grinding halt, but without men, the infrastructure comes to a grinding halt. And if you take all the men off the planet, society stops that day. Like if it happens Monday morning, by Monday night, everything has gone and crumbled to dust, right? And it'll take some time for the species to grind to a halt without women, because no one will be able to reproduce, and then boom, we're all done. I guess I shouldn't say I don't think the lives are equal. I think they're equal as opposites, but I think that I think they're equal as opposites. I'll say that. I don't think that they're equal as like, okay, well, you can do exactly what I can do, because that's not true. But I do think that they are equal as opposites. So I'll leave it at that. But he's not making this guy right here. The feminist dude. He's not really making a lot of sense. He contradicted his points, and then he said, "Well, this is what I meant, even though I didn't say it." Like those are bad debate. That's bad debate etiquette. You know what I'm saying? He's not really. His points are all over the place already, and there's so many holes in his argument. So many holes in his argument.
That strength to protect
Yeah, but
others.
you're prescribing a duty. You haven't actually told me why it is. So, for instance, do you agree that men and women's lives are equally valuable?
Equally valuable? Yeah.
Okay, then why the fuck would you say that they should give up their spots in the lifeboat because they're stronger?
Equally valuable, because I think if we're talking about a boat sinking, I think most men would probably be better able to swim longer, be able to survive
in the icy
that.
fucking waters of the
I don't
fucking.
know.
Are you
Okay.
serious? The icy waters of the Atlantic Ocean. They're going to have a better fighting chance against the sharks.
Wait.
Like, what are you? What?
Wait, hold on, Andrew.
Come on, bro.
Dude,
this is fucking
This is
crazy.
not, no, there were Andrew. There,
Okay.
are you not? Are you not agreeing with me? Who do you think would survive longer in the icy water?
I don't.
Man
I
or
think you're
woman?
talking about seconds or minutes, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there's icy water filled with sharks, and you throw a man in there, he's gone. If you throw a woman, he's gone. They're like, what do you? I kind of get what he's saying, because you can't say that men are stronger than women, and then when the feminist guy makes the case that, well, men are stronger than women, in this instance, yes, men are physically stronger than women. But does that mean that we should still be thrown to the wolves based off of that strength? No, because we're still human. We're still vulnerable. We still bleed. We can still be killed. We can still die. And if I'm thrown in the icy river to save someone full of sharks, and it's like, well, you're a man, that formulates that same mindset that a lot of feminists claim to hate, of the toxic masculinity, or just be a man, or just man up. It comes from people thinking like him. So how can he sit up here and say, oh, well, you're a man, so you have a better fighting chance and you would survive longer, so we're going to give all the lifeboats to the woman, and because you're a man, you're going to have to swim to shore? What? That doesn't that doesn't make any sense. You can't be on two sides of the same argument whenever it's convenient. Like that's how you know the movement is flawed. It's inconsistent, and it only flips sides when it's convenient for its own argument. That mindset breeds hypocrisy, and it breeds instability, and it breeds what's the opposite? And it breeds inequality, which is the opposite of what you claim your movement is about. Right then and there, we boom solved it. 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Let's see what else this guy has to say. But I've already defeated his argument. I'm not nearly as dope in debating as Andrew is.
If there were rescue boats going by,
There's
men
not
should get to
rescue
them?
boats. There wasn't rescue boats going
Okay,
by,
well, I'm
bro.
glad we're not in that situation anymore.
Yeah, but
So
I
what
am
should
asking you
happen
about
now?
that situation. You said
Okay.
they should give up their spots
Sure.
on the Titanic. The women get the lifeboats
Yes.
because the men are stronger, even though their
Yes.
lives are both equally valuable.
Yes.
Why?
I think that some men should do that. Absolutely. Because
Why?
Why? Because you should want to protect those who are weaker than you.
Why though? Why though? If
Hold
it's just
on,
a matter of you saying because you're stronger, then you switch. What you're doing is switching your case use here, which is fucking. It's equivocation. It's pissing me off because it's not even genuine. You're making the equivocal case that, wait a second, right? Men generally are stronger than women, so therefore should protect them because generally stronger people should protect weaker people.
Yes.
Okay, that follows in that aspect. You're a bit stronger, right?
Yes.
You have some sort of like duty or obligation to protect those weaker than you. But when you're in a situation like the fucking Titanic, right, where your strength differential doesn't fucking matter at all, right? You still prescribe that the women get the lifeboats, bro. And I need you to tell me why.
Why should they get the lifeboats? I think I am then expressing an intuition based on that case that is based on the fact that men are generally stronger than women. So maybe in
How
this
is
case,
that helpful?
Hold on. Maybe in this case, then they shouldn't, because this case doesn't involve strength or anything like that. So in this case, then maybe not. In the Titanic, in that case, then yeah, maybe not.
Okay, so you're
If we're talking
retracting that?
Yeah, I'll
Okay, so you're gonna retract
the claim
that.
for women. I'll retract the claim for they should give it up for women. Maybe not children though, because children would have a longer lifespan ahead of them. And men and women's lives, I would agree, are roughly equal. But you can argue that children's lives, many
more
people
valuable,
consider them more valuable because they have a longer life to live.
Okay, so then men don't have an obligation
Not
to
only
sacrifice.
not only that, not only because they have a longer life to live, it's because they're the most innocent. Because kids they haven't lived long enough to like hurt people, do anything wrong or bad. That's like if a kid dies of cancer and you're like, dang, this little kid is over here dying of cancer, and I know that I've done wrong in my life, and here I am healthy and strong. It makes you feel bad. Whereas if you're looking at like a criminal or someone, you're like, they died or whatever, they did enough harm in the world, get them out of here. The kids are innocent. So I think that's also why kids' lives are more valuable than adult lives.
Sacrifice their lives for women.
And men and women's lives, I would agree, are roughly equal. But you can argue that children's lives, many people would consider them more valuable because they have a longer life to live.
Okay, so then men don't have an obligation to sacrifice their lives for women.
No. I don't
Okay,
think necessarily.
got it. They don't have.
I don't think. No, I don't think each individual man. I think society has an obligation to protect those who are weaker. But I think that no individual person should be compelled to risk or like.
Well, I didn't say compelled.
Life.
I asked about duty. That wouldn't be
Men.
like a foreign compellence.
No, I don't think men have that duty. No.
They don't have that duty.
Men in general, no. Those who are stronger, not to die for other people necessarily.
But
So
that's
you
what
don't think that there's
but that's what it means to protect. If you're like right now, right? I'm in my house. Okay, let's say I'm in my wife, my kids, whatever, are in the room. Someone busts into the house. It's my job to protect those people who are valuable to me. So that means that I have to put myself in between the thing that is dangerous and the people that I'm trying to protect. I have to put myself in between there and face the danger. And anytime you're facing a dangerous situation, you might die. That's what makes it dangerous. So he's saying that yes, men have to protect, but that doesn't mean that they should have to die. That's what it means to protect. The people that are responsible for protecting the president, they understand like, hey, I might die doing this job. Being a firefighter, you understand that you might die doing that job. Being a police officer, you understand that you might die doing that job. Like, that's what it means to protect. Even the men that are in blue collar work, they are protecting the infrastructure by fixing things that always break. And we make up over 90% of the workplace deaths. Dying, the potential to die is always a part of protecting something. You can't separate those two. Those two things are like this. So I hope Andrew calls him on that. I need Andrew to ask him, what does it mean to protect? What does it mean to protect something? I want the feminist guy here to explain that.
social obligation inside of society which shames men duty.
Men in general, no. Those who are stronger, not to die for other people necessarily.
So you don't think that there's a social obligation inside of society which shames men if they don't protect women who are physically weaker than them?
I think there is, but the thing is also I think a man is much less likely to die than a woman in those situations.
Yeah, so what?
So then it's much
But he's much more likely to be shamed for not interjecting himself in the situation, which would mean that he actually would be more likely to die than the women.
I think it's because he's stronger.
Yeah, but that actually would increase his risk of death over women.
All right, Andrew.
And the average man would increase the risk of death if they're interjecting more than women. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. What's your point?
Is that correct?
Yes. What's your point?
Okay, so then you're assisting with a bias against men.
No.
With the social shame of men. Do you think that men, because they're the stronger sex, should interject on the behalf of people who are weaker than them?
If they are stronger.
If they're strong, and on average, they're going to be.
Yes.
Exactly.
Then what you're doing is interjecting them into significant amounts of danger over the weaker sex.
It's not on the basis that they're men. It's on the basis that they're stronger.
Yes,
so
but the bias selection's still going to apply to men.
Exactly. Why, bro? That was the dumbest part of all of this. Because now I'm getting mad because he's contradicted himself like 3 times already. First, you said that the people that are stronger should protect people that are weaker. Cool, got it. And then they did the whole thing. Hey, should a 13-year-old kid potentially die to protect the old lady? He was like, no. That was the first contradiction. The second contradiction. Oh, you can protect, but you're not supposed to die or necessarily. That's the second contradiction. Now he's talking about some. Oh, it's not based off of the fact that they're men. It's based off of the fact that they're stronger, but most men are going to be stronger than most women, which is the exact same point that you just made at the beginning when you said that you were going to throw men into the ice water with the sharks because they have a better chance of surviving, because they're stronger, because they're men. So you can't sit up like what. I don't understand. What is his point? He's saying it's not because you're man. It's not because you're a man. It's because you're stronger. Okay, so if I get with a woman who's physically stronger, is she supposed to take on the masculine role in your feminist viewpoint? Absolutely not. Because even feminists say that they want a man who's more dominant, more masculine, and all this other stuff. So what is his actual point, other than just a whirlwind of contradictions? His viewpoint feels like a Ponzi scheme. Like, okay, I'll pay a little bit of attention to this when it matters and when it fits my narrative. Oh, but when we start switching things, I need to move the goalposts over here. So now forget what happened over here. This doesn't matter anymore because now we're talking about this. I don't understand how he just said that out loud and without bursting into flames. I don't understand that. I don't understand this at all. I'm trying to like understand his points to be like, okay, I can see that, but he hasn't said one thing where I'm like, that makes perfect sense. It's like talking to a chick. It's all over the place. There's nothing linear here.
Significant amounts of danger over the weaker sex.
It's not on the basis that they're men. It's on the basis that they're stronger.
Yes,
so
but the bias selection's still going to apply to men.
Fine. So it would apply. So are you endorsing disparate impact theory here? I'm just really confused.
What is disparate impact theory?
The idea that if something overwhelmingly affects a group, then therefore it ought to be considered like, I guess, prejudice or harm against that group. So, for example, if a policy was passed and it overwhelmingly disproportionately affected a racial minority or any minority, regardless of the intent of the bill.
No, I wouldn't endorse that, but what I will say is that.
Well, this is the type of disparate impact.
Not. Here's why. Here's a distinction.
I don't even know what that is. So,
do you agree with me that people can hide their true intentions towards a thing, right, by kind of equivocating based on their intention? So, for instance, if I said, look, okay, this isn't a bias against midgets, but I just think that people who are 3 feet and below shouldn't work in Hollywood, right? Okay. I'm not biased against midgets, though, right? I'm universally applying that standard to all people, but who does it disproportionately affect the most?
Yeah, it does affect them. But
now, hang on. Hang on. Now, if I held a bias, a secret bias against midgets, I really fucking hated them, right? Would that be a really good way for me to enact my will, my hatred towards those midgets, by making that universal claim that all people 3 feet and under shouldn't work in Hollywood?
Sure, but Andrew,
very beautifully put. It's crazy. Jordan Peterson actually, I went to a Jordan Peterson event back in March, and he actually talks about how this is happening in the American government system. How you have people that are very staunch narcissists, very people that have been outcast and ostracized their entire life, and how they masquerade that pain and how they masquerade their psychopathy as a political agenda. And I think what Andrew just did is called that out and say, yeah, you're saying it's because they're stronger, while also understanding that most men are going to be stronger. Doesn't that just kind of seem like you're talking crap? Doesn't that just kind of seem like it's like Rick said, that's slavery with extra steps. It's oppression with extra steps, yet you claim that the movement is about freedom and equality. Andrew called that out perfectly. He called that out perfectly.
But
what would the benefit be of banning those people from working in Hollywood? I would just say things
like they can't get hurt as easy.
Can't get hurt.
Yeah,
as
people
easily?
who are 5 feet and or above, they don't get hurt as easy as people who are 3 feet and below. Then especially when you're on Hollywood sets and things like that.
If you were making then standards that were, I mean, we have this. Do you think it's prejudicial?
It would universally apply to all people.
Then do you think it's prejudicial that we hate children because we have
what
height,
I'm saying,
because we have height limitations on rides at roller coasters?
So hang on.
Is that prejudice?
I'm not making the claim that you can't make even universalized prescriptions based on safety. I'm asking a specific and narrow question, which is that if I hated midgets, would it not then follow that if I was making prescriptions right, that seemingly on their face were a bit absurd. Hang on, seemingly a bit on their face absurd, right? But did universalize them by saying it's for all people. But the inaction of that really was going to disproportionately affect midgets, that it might stand to reason that I had some bias against midgets. Do you think hang on, I'm just saying this is conditional. Let me look at the camera too. It's just as conditional. But don't you think that if I passed legislation which was disproportionately affect only one group, right? But I was doing it as a universal claim for all, right? That people might think my motivations were to try to like disproportionately affect that group. Don't you think that follows?
It could be, but it's not necessarily. I don't think we think men should...
Isn't it interesting, though, that you endorse feminism while at the same time having a bias against men because they're stronger?
I don't have a bias against men.
Sure sounds like you do.
I don't. I think that those... I already said this. I think those who are stronger, regardless of sex, should protect those who are weaker.
Yeah, but again, here's the problem. When you claim that I'm a feminist, right, which you have, and that you're here to defend feminism, isn't it interesting that part of this, kind of like a prescription for society based around feminism is that it just so happens that men need to, of course, you don't mean men, you just mean stronger people, but men have to interject and put themselves in harm's way more than women do. And you happen to be a feminist. You don't think people are going to put two and two together and think that, well, perhaps you have a bit of bias towards men?
Bias towards men or biased against men?
Yeah.
No, I don't necessarily think that follows at all.
Okay, why not?
Yeah, please explain why not, because he broke that down step by step. I'm a feminist. Like, please, I need to hear his explanation.
I don't think that it means that you hate someone if you think that because...
I didn't say hate. Did I say hate?
Fine,
or bias?
Fine, Andrew. I don't think that you're biased.
You can fine Andrew.
I don't think that you're biased against someone or a group of people if you think because they have advantages, they should use them to the less well off.
Okay.
Do you think it would do you think that like taxing the wealthy is like a bias against rich people? That,
I think it can be.
So, but do you think it necessarily is?
I never said anything about of this being necessarily the case.
Okay, so hang on. It's not necessarily. Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
I agree.
What I said was that people can hide the motivation. And I do think, by the way, using this example of the wealthy, that oftentimes progressives do fucking hate the wealthy and blame them for problems inside of society because they think they're selfish and want to punish them. They want to punish them.
Some people might do that. I'm not denying that they're going to do that.
So the thing is like...
Fine. Then I am in full agreement with you that wanting to punish people is a bad reason for doing that.
So what reward... Okay, so for this duty that is going to disproportionately affect men, but isn't meant to target men, just people who are stronger. What do they get out of this?
What do they get out?
Fantastic question.
I don't think,
because if I'm getting upset. Fantastic. Let me tone it down. Fantastic question. Because if I'm expected to, by and large, if I'm expected to die, what am I getting for my sacrifice? What am I getting for my sacrifice? I need to know. Am I getting someone who's going to be doing the things that I value, or am I getting someone who's this typical modern lady? Fantastic question by Andrew. What is he getting? Let's run this back.
Is going to disproportionately affect men, but isn't meant to target men, just people who are stronger. What do they get out of this?
What do they get out? I don't think that duties necessitate rewards. For example, I don't think we should reward people for like using their strength to benefit others. I just think that's something that you ought to do. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you shouldn't beat your wife. It's like, I didn't beat my wife today. You should give me more money. It's like, of course not.
Isn't a draft duty which necessarily benefits others based on strength?
I don't agree with the draft because it's compulsory.
Yeah, so is this duty, though. It's compulsory, right? People ought do it, you said? Isn't that a compulsion?
Sure. 100%. I'm not, but that's a legal compulsion. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be general societal like pushes towards certain things, but I don't think it should be legally compelled in which you go to jail or are killed for not joining the draft. But yeah, absolutely. I think that if society is on the brink of collapse or something like that, those who are stronger should step up and try to defend that.
What would the equal female duty to this be?
There's not an equal female duty. And I've had this before. You had the same conversation. There is not a equal female. There's not equal duty for those who would
What is there
typically be
any duty
associated with
that
weaker.
women have at all?
Yeah, I think so. Same
What?
duties that men would have in terms of kindness towards others, being respectful towards others.
Those aren't
Wanting to
duties.
lift people up. I think it is.
No, it's not a duty to be
Absolutely.
kind and respectful. We've been disrespectful
Absolutely.
this whole time. Where's your kindness and,
What?
and duty?
Wait, I think people should be okay, Andrew. I'm sorry that I wasn't specific enough in saying that you should be generally kind. I don't think
Oh,
that someone.
generally.
Hold on, Andrew. Fine,
Come
because
on.
No, man. All right, listen. Basic kindness isn't a duty. That's not a duty. Basic kindness, being a hey, how are you? That's not a duty. Fighting and potentially dying for the people that you are responsible for, that's a duty. And it's just like he said, women under the guise of feminism don't have a duty that equivocate or is equal in value to a man's sacrifice. Yet their entire movement is talking about, oh, equality, equality. It's not equality when it comes down to the dark, dirty parts of life. It's only equal when it comes to corporate jobs, when it comes to higher pay, when it comes to college degrees and college education. That's when they want equality. But when the Vikings are at the door, it's man up. Well, you're stronger. You can take it, can't you? Be a man. What are we talking about? How does he look? How did he do that with a straight face? I need to have this level of confidence in my life to know that I'm wrong and just be like, yes, no, the sky is blue, or yes, no, the sky is pink. Not even blinking. That was tough for me to watch because, man, I tell you, it like if men think like that, because now like this is gonna sound messed up, but if all the women in the world thought like that, they still couldn't beat all men. You know what I'm saying? Like if all like there will have some dudes that died, sure, but at the end of it, all of the strongest men would be fine. We would live, okay? The problem comes in when you have weak men, such as the guy, the feminist guy, teaming up with those women to take out the men who are at the top. This was in a show. I don't remember the name of the show. I think it was like Naked or Afraid or Survivor. It was one of those shows. And it was like these alpha guys at the top, crushing every competition, beating everybody. Like they had the game on lock. Nobody was seeing them. Nobody was touching them. And the dudes at the bottom, they was like sleeping on the outskirts of the tent. Like they had to sleep in the cold because they lost the challenge. And the women had their own camp. And they was like dying of scurvy. It was bad for the women, right? So what the women did, they teamed up with the weak dudes and was like, hey, we don't stand a chance and you don't stand a chance. So, let's work together. And of course they flirted with them. They threw like little hints and things like, hey, if you do this, maybe like suggestive comments and things of that nature. And then once all of the alpha men, quote unquote, were out of the picture, all of the women turned on the weak men and then all of the women won. That's exactly what happens when dudes like this like get into power. And I think that's why, again, not to get political at all. But I think that's why this last election was such a landslide because men were like, yo, I'm fed up of like, I cut on the TV and there's 8 dudes in a dress. Like, what is going on? You notice it's Pride Month this month. Google hasn't changed their Pride thing or their logo to no Pride flags. There has been a lot of companies that hasn't changed their logo to nothing. And I remember last year that wasn't the case. Do what you will with that information. I'm just saying. You put 2 and 2 together, things start making a lot of sense. But guys, that's all I have for this video. If you like the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And guys, do not forget, if there's a video that you would like to see me react to, drop it down in the comments below, and I will be putting your name right here. Last but not least, the best way to help out the YouTube algorithm is to like another one of my videos that you see popping up on the screen right now. I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.